In the evening, I was lying on the floor in the hallway for a long time, fixing a shelf that had been threatening to fall for a week. A faint overhead light was on, and a few times I caught myself looking not at the screws, but at the ceiling. I thought there was a very thin, barely visible crack there, straight as a hair. I moved closer. Nothing. The lamp light masked all the small defects. I smiled to myself. Fatigue is doing strange things to me. After showering, I went into the bedroom. I turned on a night light and felt peace for the first time all day. I lay on my back, clasping my hands behind my head, and then I glanced up again. A thin crack, which definitely hadn't been there before, was clearly visible on the ceiling. I frowned. Maybe the plaster is coming loose? I rubbed my eyes again. The crack seemed to have shifted slightly. I turned onto my side, deciding to put other things in my head. Sleep came quickly. I woke up in paralysis. My eyes flew open on their own. My body didn't respond. And the first thing I saw was the ceiling. The crack was not alone. Dozens of small, thin, dark, broken lines branched out from it, as if someone was drawing a leafless tree directly above my face. And they were moving. I fixed my gaze and saw the thinnest ones slowly lengthen. A millimeter, another millimeter. The sound was quiet but distinct. HRRR. HRR. A faint crackling. The cracks weren't just spreading. They were growing downward, toward me. One of them stopped directly over my face. It froze. If it had eyes, it would be staring. A whisper came from the ceiling. Thin. Dry. I see. The words split into grains like dry earth. Another crack widened, and a tiny speck of dust fell from the ceiling, right onto my cheek. I couldn't wipe it off. You were lying right beneath me. I am close. The lines on the ceiling began to move faster. The web of dark stripes crept toward the center, to that first crack, thin as a cut, which was now suspended over my head. HRRR. The sound grew louder. The ceiling seemed to be breathing, pulsing. Do you hear me coming down? The cracks became thicker. One of them slid right to the edge, and I saw a small piece of plaster peel away from the weight, as if something was pushing it from the inside. Open a space for me. The piece broke off. It fell onto my neck. Cold. And from the hole created, an empty darkness stared down at me. Black, unnatural, as if there were not concrete, but a bottomless opening. The darkness stirred. The cracks pulsed in waves, contracting like excited muscles. I want to come down, quieter, closer. I want to lie, on your bones. The cracks tore open horizontally, and dry dust poured out of them, directly onto me. I choked on it, even though I couldn't even cough. The darkness in the hole began to slowly tilt, as if something invisible was descending, emerging, flowing down. And just as it was about to touch my forehead, the paralysis snapped. I recoiled, breathing deeply, covered in sweat. I looked up. The ceiling was almost clear. Only one thin crack remained, barely visible. But on my pillow lay a small piece of plaster, which shouldn't have been there, and it was slowly, very slowly, cracking all by itself. In the evening, I was taking things down from the mezzanine. I was looking for an extension cord, but instead pulled out an old box of childhood trinkets that I should have thrown away long ago. The cardboard was yellowed, the tape had peeled off, and everything inside was in disarray. A deflated ball, broken toy cars, and a doll. Plastic, old, with a scratched face and slightly matted hair. One I wouldn't open completely, which made its gaze seem askew, as if it were always looking past you. I didn't remember it. I couldn't recall where I got it. I placed the doll on a shelf near the wardrobe, temporarily just to get it out of the way. I closed the box and forgot about it. The evening passed peacefully. Shower, tea, silence. I lay in bed and turned off the light. The room felt normal. Nothing was alarming. Just before falling asleep, I heard a very quiet sound click, as if a plastic joint had subtly turned. I didn't open my eyes. Sleep came immediately. I didn't wake up. I froze. At first, it seemed like a strange pause between thoughts. A moment when the body lets go, but consciousness hasn't yet faded. I was lying too straight, too correct, as if someone had carefully arranged me into the proper pose. I tried to shift my shoulders slightly. The command went out. There was no reply. It wasn't sudden, not panic-stricken. On the contrary, quiet, as if my body had decided not to participate anymore. A dull tension appeared in my chest, like before a sneeze or a scream that can't happen. My breathing continued, but not as usual. The air entered and seemed to get stuck inside, never quite reaching the end. My eyes opened on their own. The world in the room was too sharp. Not realistic, flat. The furniture contours were stark, the shadows even, without any blurring, as if someone had turned off the depth. The air looked heavy, thick, like in a room where the windows hadn't been opened in a long time. I blinked, or rather, I tried. My eyelids trembled but didn't close. I was allowed to see exactly as much as was necessary. I felt fear rising slowly, without a jump, spreading warmth under my skin, but my body remained cold and motionless. I understood. This is paralysis. And almost immediately, the second realization, it won't end quickly. Time stopped being uniform. The seconds didn't stretch. They froze, and each one weighed more than it should. The first thing I saw was the doll. It was sitting on the chair next to my bed. Not as I had left it. Straight up, with a straight back. Hands folded on its knees. Feet parallel to the floor. Its head was tilted slightly to the side. The doll was looking directly at me. I didn't feel a sudden fear. Instead, something worse appeared, the realization that it had been here for a long time. As if I opened my eyes not at the moment of its arrival, but at the moment when it had already finished staring at me. The doll's eyes shone with a faint reflection of the nightlight. The fact that one eye wouldn't open completely no longer looked like a defect. It was an expression, as if it was looking slightly from the side, but seeing more. I tried to close my eyes again. My muscles wouldn't obey. My eyelids only twitched, leaving a narrow slit. I was not allowed to escape even into darkness. Its mouth began to open, slowly, with an overly precise amplitude. The plastic creaked, dryly, dully, as if the sound wasn't coming out, but originating inside me. "Let's play." The voice was childlike, but it contained no breath, no pause for an inhale, as if the words were not being spoken, but extruded from a cavity. I felt a coldness creeping up my arms, but the arms themselves lay heavy, useless, as if they were not mine. The doll slowly slid off the chair. It didn't fall. It slid off, like an object being carefully removed so as not to damage it. It touched the floor with its feet and froze. Click, click. The sound came not from steps, but from movements inside it. The first step, the second. I felt these sounds beneath my sternum, as if someone were lightly tapping the bones from the inside. The space between us contracted, and I suddenly realized I couldn't gauge the distance. The room seemed to have lost scale. "You will hide." It was close now. Too close. I could see micro cracks in the plastic, faded paint on its lips, dirt in the folds near its ears. Its presence stole the air, and I caught myself breathing less frequently. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't do otherwise. Its hand rose. The movement was smooth, purposeful, not toy-like. The fingers touched the blanket. The cold passed through the fabric, as if the blanket had lost its purpose as an obstacle. And well, look. It leaned in closer. Its face was level with mine. I saw the reflection of my own eye in its half-open pupil, small, trembling, fixed. "If I find you, you will stay with me." The second hand touched my cheek. The contact was light, almost gentle. Not pressure, study. The cold slowly spread inward, as if the temperature was changing not on the surface, but in the very structure of my body. I wanted to scream. I wanted to turn away. I wanted to at least clench my teeth. Nothing. "You are not moving. That means you are already playing." Its head snapped sharply to 90 degrees. Click! The sound cut through the silence like a crack. And at that exact moment, my body released. I inhaled sharply, threw off the blanket, and lurched forward, gasping for air. My heart was pounding fast and unevenly. My hand was shaking. The room was empty. The chair was empty. I turned on the light. The doll was standing on the shelf where I had left it. But now its arms were spread wide, as if it had just said, "Your turn." In the evening, I paced around the kitchen for a long time, opening and closing cupboards. I wasn't hungry. It was something else. A sticky desire without shape, without reason. I wanted something sweet, but not a specific thing, not a taste, but a state. There was no chocolate. The cookies were gone. All that remained was an old jar of caramels that I kept for later. I opened it, took one candy, sticky, with a slightly whitened surface, and popped it into my mouth. The taste was too sweet, sharp, even unpleasant, the kind that makes your teeth clench. I chewed and closed the jar, but my hand reached out again on its own. A second, a third. I only stopped when a slight nausea settled in my stomach. Enough, I said aloud and put the jar back, as if words could seal something shut. When I lay down in bed, the sugary aftertaste wouldn't disappear. I swallowed, licked my lips, tried to fall asleep, but a strange saliva seemed to linger in my mouth. Just before sleeping, I thought I heard a quiet chewing sound. Slow, soft, as if someone was very diligently munching on something sticky. I thought it was just the blood rushing in my ears, and fell asleep. I didn't wake up. I got stuck. At first, it wasn't even scary. It felt as if my body had simply settled too comfortably. Not sleepy, tucked in. As if someone had carefully pressed my shoulders, chest, and hips to the mattress, checking that I was lying straight. I tried to wiggle my toes. The intention was there. The movement was not. I tried to tense my stomach. Nothing. I tried to inhale deeper. Air entered and stopped, as if hitting a wall inside my chest, never reaching the end. And only then did the smell appear. Sweet, thick, nauseating, as if syrup had been spilled in the room, heated and forgotten. The smell was so dense that it felt like you could lick it. Saliva immediately gathered in my mouth, thick and viscous. I tried to swallow. My throat wouldn't obey. Saliva accumulated, but the swallowing motion was absent, as if someone had switched off this reflex, separate from the rest of my body. My eyes opened on their own. He was sitting next to my bed. A fat man. Not just plump, excessively so, such that his body lacked clear boundaries. His belly hung in folds, as if without bone structure. His cheeks were round, glistening, as if smeared with syrup. His chin flowed smoothly into his neck, and his neck into his chest. He was sitting right on the floor, cross-legged and eating. In his hands, handfuls of sweets appeared. Caramels, cookies, pieces of cake, sticky candied fruits. They emerged as if from the air, and he immediately stuffed them into his mouth, unhurriedly, with complete certainty. Smack, crunch, squish. The sound was slow, contented, almost tender. I suddenly felt my jaws reacting. Barely. My teeth wanted to clench. I wanted to chew along with him, to repeat the motion. He looked up at me. "Oh," he mumbled, not stopping his chewing. "You woke up." His voice was soft, gentle, as if he was speaking to someone close, almost family. "Don't be afraid," he added. "You called me yourself." I wanted to object. I wanted to say I hadn't called. I wanted to say go. My mouth wouldn't open. He slowly licked his fingers. They stuck together with a sound that made me want to turn away, but I couldn't. "You stopped," he said, looking intently. But not right away. He tilted his head, peering closer, like a doctor in an X-ray. I felt it, he whispered. That moment, when enough is already said, but more is already growing. He crawled closer. The floor quietly creaked under his weight. not sharply, wearily. Every movement was unhurried, confident, as if he knew exactly how much time he had. I come exactly then, he continued. Not when you want it, but when you can't refuse it. He stopped by the bed. His knee touched the edge of the mattress, and it subtly sagged. The smell became unbearable. I don't eat candies, he said softly, almost confidentially. I eat the pause, that tiny moment between no and just one more. He held out his hand, and it was a caramel for which a thin thread of syrup stretched. Look, he smiled. It won't hurt, will it? His fingers touched my lips. Sticky, cold. I felt my lips wanting apart on their own. Open, he whispered. You remember, don't you, how good it feels? I felt the sweet sensation on my tongue. Not an object, a feeling. The same one I had in the kitchen. The same, just one more. Warm, promising, almost cozy. And that was the most terrifying thing. A wave of disgust washed over me. I realized he isn't eating me. He is eating my boundary, my moment of choice. Just a little more, he whispered, and you will wake up very empty. His mouth stretched into a smile, full of sugar. And then something in me snapped. The paralysis vanished abruptly. I sat up, gasping for air, pushing the air away from me. My heart was pounding, my mouth was dry, but the sweet taste still lingered. The room was empty. The smell was gone. I rushed to the kitchen, not understanding why. I opened the refrigerator. The jar of caramels was standing where I had left it, empty. And on the bottom, in the sticky syrup, someone had traced a finger to write the word. More. That evening, I was fixing an old nightstand in the bedroom. It creaked every time I pulled out a drawer, and that annoyed me more than it should have. I unscrewed the back panel and shone a flashlight inside. It was clean in there. Dust, a bit of old paper, nothing alive. But just as I was about to close it up, I heard a rustle. Brief, dry, as if something quickly ran inside the wall. I froze. Listened closely. Silence. Must be the neighbors, I told myself, though I didn't believe it. I put the nightstand back together and went to bed. The blanket was heavy and warm. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling. Before falling asleep, I heard again, closer now. Clink, clink, clink. Not running. Steps. Tiny, but confident. Sleep descended sharply. I didn't wake up. I dropped on my body, remaining trapped inside it. At first, it seemed like the usual lag between sleep and waking. I thought I was just lying too still. I tried to move my fingers. The signal went out but didn't arrive. I tried to tense my shoulders. The muscles were silent. My body was heavy, as if nailed to the mattress. As if I had been deliberately placed there, so I wouldn't interfere. And then I felt movement. Not nearby. Under the bed. Quiet, multivoiced, uneven. As if something was crawling down there, stopping, crawling again. Not chaotically, but cautiously listening. I try not to look. My eyes opened on their own. A mouse slowly crept out from under the bed. It stopped, as if waiting for permission. Then a second, a third. They weren't running away. They were walking. Slowly, in sync, with identical pauses between steps. It seemed to me they were counting. My chest rose barely perceptibly. Each breath was short, as if air was being conserved. My heart hammered high up, beneath my throat, but I couldn't even swallow. The mice stopped, and then, from the shadow beneath the bed, something larger began to assemble. First, movement, then form. They linked together by tails, backs, teeth, not sticking, but integrating as if each knew its place. The body rose, supported by dozens of tiny paws. The head was composed of several muzzles. Eyes looked in different directions. Not a single one blinked. When it straightened up, I heard a quiet cracking. Not the floor, but tiny bones adjusting to the load. The Mouse King. It didn't squeak. Its voice was dull, coarse, as if someone was scratching wood with claws. You heard us. That means You opened yourself. That means you're not sleeping as you should. The mice beneath it stirred, tensing, holding the shape. Several detached and slowly ran across the floor, tracing a circle around the bed. I realized they are measuring the space. We live, the king continued, where it is quiet, where nothing moves for a long time, where the body forgets that it is a body. It leaned forward. One of the mice stretched out from the body like an arm and touched the edge of my mattress. The mattress sagged. This wasn't a sleep effect. It had weight. You are warm, he said. You are slow. You are obedient. Something small touched my arm. Then another. Cold paws, dry, cautious. I wanted to clench my fingers. I couldn't. I wanted to pull my arm away. My body wouldn't obey. Panic swelled, but had no escape. Don't be afraid, the king scraped out. Fear is noise. We love silence. The mice began to climb higher. Up the bedpost. Across the blanket. I felt their presence not as pain, but as pressure. As if I was being slowly covered by an alien body, layer by layer. We are watching, he said closer. How you breathe, how you don't move, how you allow it. The king lowered its composite face toward mine. Several muzzles looked directly into my eyes. Others at my neck, my chest, my mouth. When you sleep, he whispered, we learn form, we learn size, we learn to be bigger. One mouse crawled onto the edge of the pillow. I felt a quick touch near my cheek, like a check. When you sleep, we grow. Air suddenly tore through my chest. I inhaled sharply, painfully, and the paralysis broke. I screamed and sat up. The room was empty. The silence, normal, dull. I jumped up and turned on the light. Under the bed, nothing. Not a single mouse. Not a trace. But in the morning, when I was cleaning, I saw faint scratches on the floor. They formed a perfect circle around the bed. And on the back panel of the nightstand, from the inside, someone had gnawed out, finely but very neatly, the word King.